Who we got?
Just give us a minute. ABC's going to set up.
Well, there's worse places to be waiting for the ABC than. Laurie. Oh, look at that. Green ant on the ABC logo.
Can't have that.
Okay, I think I'm okay though. Okay, let me know when. Okay. We've had spiders, we've had green ants. All good to go? Well, in a moment I'm going to make a really exciting announcement, but first there's been some extraordinary developments overnight. We now have the situation. Sorry, you happy there, Paul? Yeah. The sun has now crept back in We're good? We've now had the extraordinary development where the government has called a royal commission into a royal commission. And it is the latest chapter in a sad saga of a failed DNA laboratory in this state and a government refusing to acknowledge how serious the problem is. Now, this is a repeat of what Queenslanders have lived through for more than a year. A government that refused to call the Royal Commission, was dragged to it after describing it as politicking, and now we have the situation that despite our repeated calls to keep the Royal Commission open, despite our repeated calls to listen to whistleblowers and victims, despite being told that that was an overreaction and it shouldn't happen, overnight the government has caved into pressure, and in a moment I'm going to get Ros to make some comments about the significance of that. But this is extraordinary. The way this process has been handled has been callous, it's been cold, it's been chaotic, and it's no way to run a government. And Queenslanders deserve to have a laboratory that can do its job and ensure that justice in this state is done. And the way that this has unfolded shows everything you need to know about the way this government treats Queenslanders. They have prioritised their survival over getting a laboratory to give justice to victims. We have a situation where thousands of Queenslanders may have been denied justice, where thousands of Queenslanders have been denied the opportunity to be listened to. There is a potential that murderers and rapists have walked free because of these failings, and the government has treated this like a political plaything, and no one wins when this occurs. We have been dogged in pushing for this Royal Commission to be ongoing. And when I first met Vicky Blackburn a long time ago, I looked her in the eye and said that we would leave no stone unturned to give her justice for her family. And the way this has unfolded has been deeply disappointing. But I'll tell you what, it has given us the resolve to continue in our fight to make sure that the problems at that laboratory are fixed. And we've been told that we were politicking, we've been told that it wasn't needed, but Queenslanders have seen this unfold for the chaotic nature of this government. And we won't stop until victims in this state get the justice they deserve, and the DNA laboratory is there to do its job. And Ros might make some observations about how this has unfolded.
Thank you. Ros Bates, Shadow Minister for Health and Ambulance Services and Registered Nurse. Well, today is Groundhog Day for a Labor government in chaos and crisis. How on earth did we get here? Make no mistake, today's announcement by the government is all about Shannon Fentiman. It's all about how things look, not how things are. This is an Attorney-General who presided over the DNA debacle. She is now the Health Minister who's presiding over the DNA debacle. She is the Minister who sat round the Cabinet table when Yvette D'Arth raised these issues. So Shannon Fentiman is responsible, as Yvette D'Arth was, for what has happened at the DNA lab. That Shannon Fentiman at the 11th hour, after bullying and lobbying the mother of a murder victim, has pulled the ripcord on a Royal Commission into a Royal Commission just tells you everything you need to know about Shannon Fentiman. Shannon Fentiman is a fraud, a phony and a failure. She was a fraud, a phony and a failure as the Child Safety Minister. In fact, she was the worst Child Safety Minister that Queensland has ever seen. Swanning around the state taking selfies on soft portrait mode does not fix the Queensland health crisis and will not fix the DNA crisis. This is all you need to know about the chaos and crisis of the Palaszczuk Labor government, and Shannon Fentiman is right there in the middle of it in Groundhog Day.
Thanks, Ros.
David.
Over to you guys.
Just on that, David, I guess have you actually spoken to the Blackburn family at all?
I have. I spoke to Vicky last night. She is one of the most remarkable Queenslanders you will ever meet, and she's done this for one reason, and that is to make sure that other families don't go through what she has gone through. And I looked her in the eye and said that we would follow this all the way to the end. And to see the way that she has been treated breaks my heart. But I looked her in the eye and I said that we would finish this and we'd finish it properly. And the way that this has unfolded over so many months, over so many ministers, shows you everything you need to know. But we are not taking one backward step on this, not for Vicky, not for other victims, not for the scientists who have bravely put their careers on the line and stood up and said so. And the way this has unfolded has been a sordid chapter in Queensland judicial history. And we had a minister categorically say it was only 30,000 people impacted. We asked the question and said, well, what happens if there's even one more? And then at the 11th hour, we hear it drop that there might be another several thousands impacted. It has been shambolic. And the government has prioritised protecting itself over protecting victims. And this is no way to run a government.
Should the new inquiry hold public hearings?
Absolutely. For justice to be done, justice needs to be seen to be done. It needs to be public, the sunshine needs to be let in, and Queenslanders need to have faith that that laboratory can do its job. And anything short of it will undermine the entire process. And the reason we got into this from the beginning, the reason why a Royal Commission was called after over half a year of stonewalling, was because if it's not seen to be repaired, Queenslanders will never have faith in that laboratory. And it is a fundamental tenet of the justice system in this state. And to see the way that this has unfolded has shown you everything you need to know about the government. And until it's fixed and until a fundamental part of that failing that was never looked at originally, until that is analysed, there's accountability, it's repaired, Queenslanders won't have faith in the justice system, and a whole generation of Queenslanders will be continued to deny justice. And the bitter irony that the brave woman who stood up in the first place to force their hand on the inquiry was denied justice a second time around and was treated in the manner she was is so troubling for every Queenslander. She's been the face of this, and she deserves to know that her daughter's life was not in vain. And the legacy will be a DNA laboratory that can do its job, and a government that understands how serious their failings have been. It's essential because an internal inquiry will never give Queenslanders the transparency and the comfort to know that the laboratory has been fixed. And that's why, if you go back, we first called for, we said at the time that the inquiry should be ongoing, and we were justified in doing that. And when we first stood up a fortnight ago and said that it should be reopened, the government said that that was not necessary. And we knew they'd get to this point. They always do. They try to ride it out. They try to see if they can manage the politics of something. It's never about an outcome. It's always about their self-preservation. And Queenslanders are seeing it, and they're living through one of the most callous and cold governments this state has ever seen.
Just while we're on questions from other regions,
Yeah.
We've also got a question from Toowoomba about the crime forum tomorrow night.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it being behind closed doors?
The fact that a community that was shunned from the beginning is having the door closed and slammed on its face a second time around tells you that the government doesn't acknowledge that Queensland youth crime crisis is as bad as it is. And the people of Toowoomba are living through it, and they know how serious it is. And the government is again trying to manage the media of it rather than trying to manage the issue, which is a once beautiful, safe community is being ripped apart by a group of repeat hardcore offenders. And the way that this is unfolding has led the community in Toowoomba to just shake their head in disbelief. Here we go again. The Premier didn't front up to the first forum. They tried to stage manage it like it was a play, and now they're doing a closed-door forum to try and say that they're ticking the next box. Deeply disappointing.
Just one out of Mackay.
Yeah.
The Mackay Hospital has announced their new board today after all the issues that they've been going through in the damning report from last year.
Yeah.
Is this a mandate fix?
I might actually get Ros to make some comments about that, but I'll make this point. What the people of Mackay have been through, and the young families that have had their lives torn apart, and to see how long the government said there was no issue there, to have us accused of making up stories and scaremongering, and to see the way that they resisted doing anything for that community is a very, very sad chapter in Queensland health history. Do you want to make a comment?
Obviously, the change of the board was due to a Part 9 inquiry at Mackay Hospital, which was absolutely horrendous. I would hope that this new board and the new CEO actually listens to the whistleblowers at the ground, because they were the ones who were coming to the LNP, raising these issues in the first place that no one was listening to. And that's all to do with the culture of Queensland Health. The fish rots from the head. The minister at the time, Yvette Dart, basically said we were scaremongering and making stories up. We know that there are women from Mackay who will never have babies because of what went on at that hospital. We need to make sure that Shannon Fentiman, the new health minister, doesn't ignore the cries of whistleblowers like her previous counterpart.
Thanks, Ross. If you don't mind, before we get on to the announcements today, I did want to make a comment for the Gold Coast about some of the comments from the police minister. To not want to be accountable and transparent about the fall in police numbers on the Gold Coast is...
Sorry, you've got 3 on.
We will move after this. To not want to be transparent about that shows that the government will never be able to fix the youth crime crisis. The only thing that would be compromised by releasing those numbers is the government's failure to give the laws that are needed and ensure that there are blue uniforms on the ground. That's the only thing that will be compromised. And the minister's denial shows that he's not listening to those frontline officers. It is the police who are coming to us, asking us to take up the fight for them. There are fewer full-time equivalent frontline police officers today than 2 years ago. 202 fewer, in fact. And stations on the Gold Coast are bearing the brunt of it. And we are going to continue to shine a light on it. It's the frontline police officers who are asking us to do so. And the only thing that's been compromised in that process is Mark Ryan's reputation for not delivering them the laws they need and the boots on the ground to do their job. We might move and then start the next announcement, if that's okay. All right, Paulie, can we find some shade? And okay, let's do that. If you're okay with that. My goodness, thank you. I'm copying it. Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, oh no, thanks. Yeah, mate. Thank you, Paul. Okay. All right. I think, Paul, I reckon we're going to struggle, mate.
Go that way more?
Yeah, I think so. I reckon I don't know if this... Sorry, guys. And then I'll step out there and then it's all yours, yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks very much, guys.
Oh, yes, that's my job.
Thank you, Hayden.
Yeah, I'm not going there. I'm not going there.
Hey, nobody needs that. All good, Paul? Thank you. When's good? ABC's good? Well, today I have an amazing announcement to make for the people of Townsville and the broader North Queensland region, and that is to advise that overnight local members in Mundingborough have chosen Janelle Poole as their candidate for next year's state election. And I couldn't be more proud and I couldn't be more pleased. Janelle has a history of service to this community. She's born and raised here. It matters to Janelle. And I said when I became leader that I was intent on doing a couple of things. The first was reforming the party and making us fit for government. And I think even my harshest of critics would acknowledge that the unity and the discipline and the focus of the opposition has been on the back of that reform. But the second thing I said I wanted to do was make sure that we had candidates in the field earlier than ever before, and they were candidates that were from the region, fought for the region, and had a track record of loving the region. And Janelle's now the second candidate in Townsville. We named Natalie Marr in Thuringowa a few months ago. We have never had candidates in the field this early, and I want North Queenslanders to understand that that is a sign of how much we value and respect the people of this city, and how much we want our candidates to be out there listening and to make sure that they get those issues and then come back to us and then take the fight up. And the fight won't just be in the lead up to the election. If people do choose these candidates, I want them to go to Brisbane and I want them to fight hard for the fair share of this region. And when I look at the challenges facing Queensland, I see them amplified here in Townsville. The youth crime crisis, the cost of living and housing crisis, the Queensland health crisis. They are all issues that are impacting North Queensland as much as anywhere. And people here feel very disconnected from Brisbane. I get that. And I want them to know that we are listening and we are fighting for them. It was this city that blew the whistle on the government's decision 8 years ago to water down the Youth Justice Act. It was this city that called it out first. And the people of Townsville were 100% correct in that. And on the back of it, you've got a generation of repeat hardcore young offenders. And I want people in Townsville to know that we are listening. And the quality of candidates we're putting and how early they are in the field shows how serious we are about bringing change to Queensland and giving this community the kind of representative that will be up for that fight. And I couldn't be more proud to introduce you to Janelle, who many of you know. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Now, who do you want me to look at?
Thank you, Janelle. Can you just talk to us a bit about your decision to run, Janelle? What made you want to run for office?
So I have to say, first and foremost, I'm exceptionally humbled to have been nominated as the representative for the seat of Munningborough for the LNP. I have served the community of Queensland, Townsville and Munningborough for nearly 30 years in my current employment, and I see this as a natural progression where I am able to continue to serve the people of Queensland, the people of Townsville and the people of Munningborough.
Definitely. Obviously your role currently with the police, sort of youth crime's been a big issue the OMP has been talking about. What do you think about what they're bringing to the table with that election?
So obviously my employment, my substantive employment is with the Queensland Police Service, and I'm bound by policy and legislation with what I can and can't say. But what I will say is I am proud to wear the blue uniform for nearly 30 years, proud to have put that uniform on each and every single day, and I'm exceptionally proud of what my brothers and sisters in blue do day in, day out, night in and night out.
As we approach the election, how will you wrangle with, your job in the police service with campaigning?
Exceptionally good question. And obviously, as I said before, my substantive position is with the Queensland Police Service, and I am bound by policy and legislation. Exceptionally proud of what my brothers and sisters in blue do. I have to say, as the candidate for the LNP for the seat of Munningborough, community safety will be paramount.
Yeah, from all your years, I guess, on the ground in that role, do you think you'll bring, I guess, a unique perspective, especially with local knowledge about the problems here with youth crime, to, I guess, Parliament if you were to be elected, and I guess how we're going to tackle this issue going forward?
So exceptionally humbled to have been nominated, exceptionally excited to be able to get out there and represent the community of Munningborough. I grew up in this community, born and bred, spent a lot of my life in this community, did my primary school and my secondary schooling in this community. I work in this community and I have volunteered in this community. So I'm really excited to be going out back into the community, talking to the members of the community, but not only talking, I want them to know that they will be heard.
What do you think the community sentiment is on youth crime in Munningborough?
I would like to say that as the candidate for the LNP in the seat of Munningborough, community safety will be paramount.
Now on that as well, in your position you would have obviously had a lot of dealings with the person that you're running against, Les Walker. What are your thoughts on Les and his leadership?
Can I just say, for the nearly 30 years I have served the community of Queensland, of Townsville and of Munningborough. I see it as a natural progression that I lead down this road, and I feel that I have got the courage to stand up for the people of this community and to listen and hear what they have to say.
Will you stand down from your role in the police service as it gets closer to the election?
Yes, so in my substantive position as a member of the Queensland Police Service, obviously I'm bound by policy and legislation, and as the time gets closer to the election, that there are a number of things that I will have to do, yes.
Do you think there's a desire for change in your electorate?
I would have to say that speaking with the members of the electorate that I have already spoken to out in the community, there is definitely a huge desire for change.
Will members of the community see the gloves come off as you get closer to the election campaign because you'll be able to sort of take a step back from your policing role?
I have to say that I'm exceptionally proud to be able to represent both LNP and the members of the community of Munningborough, and I will talk to them, I will listen to them, and I will hear what they have to say.
Aside from youth crime, what are the issues that are important to people in your electorate, do you think?
Having already spoken to members in the electorate, community safety, absolute paramount. Cost of living is right up there as well.
Just as well, I guess, having two female candidates already being announced for the LNP here in Townsville, what do you think about that as well, and having Natalie Marr standing alongside you for Thuringowa?
I'm exceptionally proud to be standing alongside Natalie Marr as a candidate for Thuringowa. This is about having the best candidate. This is not about male or female. This is about the LNP putting forward the best candidates.
Have you had political ambitions for long? Is this something that's come later in life, or has it been something that's been in your background for a while?
It is a natural progression. I have served the community of Queensland, Townsville and Munningborough for nearly 30 years, and I see it as a natural progression to continue that want to serve the community.
Thank you.
How's that?
Yeah, nothing wrong with
Okay.
it. Yeah, thanks. Well done. Thanks. Yeah, far away. Good question. I'd like it to be done in the next couple of months. That'd be important to show that we've got a full complement here in Townsville. But just bear in mind, there's still more than a year to go until the next election. We've never had candidates in the field this early. This is months in advance, and I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. I want people in Townsville to know we're fair income about them, but I also want people to have the opportunity to have a look at the quality of candidates who are here, and I want them to go out, and I want them to listen, and I want them to knock on doors, and I want them to go to markets, and I want them to be in the community events, and I want them to get ready to fight for their fair share. That's what good representation is about, and I'm really proud of the quality of people who have been put forward already. We're already up to about a dozen candidates across the state. We've never had candidates in the field this early, and I think as people look at them and make the assessment, they'll realise that there is genuinely a yearning for change, and the quality of people who are putting their hand up excites me, and I'm quietly confident that it will show Queensland that we are up to the big job of delivering solutions and change for cost of living and housing, obviously, youth crime, health. They're big challenges, and I want people, whether or not they work in a small family business, to know that there is a better way, and certainty of taxation and regulation, to let people know that they can get world-class services no matter where they live, and to let them know that we are serious about integrity in government.
Last time around, Glenn Doyle ran
Yeah.
against Les Walker, and Les had a swing of them to about just over 2%.
Yeah.
Do you think bringing out a QPS member again will work this time?
But Janelle's standing here because of a lifetime of service to the community. What she does for a living is one small part of it, but I've seen the work that she's done in charity, in sporting groups. She's a mother. She's had a lifetime of connection here. So what she does for work is a really important piece of that puzzle, and youth crime is a massive issue, but there are so many other strings to her bow, which is why I just couldn't be more excited about the quality of candidates who are putting their hand up. And Janelle she is this community, and I think that's exciting.
Labor's had obviously a strong push here with the 3 seats.
Yeah.
Do you think it will be a real challenge to reclaim part of Townsville again?
We are the underdog, and history shows that, and the government expects that Queenslanders will just keep voting for them. We're going to earn their trust, and that's why we're out in the field earlier than ever before, and that's why we have the best quality of candidates as ever before. This is not going to be easy. History will show that. Of the last 12 general elections, the Labor Party has won 11. So we are as underdog as you will come. But that's why we are out there. That's why we're listening. That's why we're putting forward our solutions to the crises that people face. That's why we have candidates in the field earlier than ever before. And I'm exceptionally proud of what we have put forward as that alternate. And make no mistake, in order for government to change, we need to win these seats here in Townsville. There's no ifs or buts about that. And government has to change. If we're going to fix the youth crime crisis, government has to change. If Queenslanders can have a world-class health service no matter where they live, government has to change. If you want your kids to be able to own a home and have a roof over the head of the most vulnerable, government has to change. And the only way that happens is by changing the local members of parliament. So, you know, this isn't about individuals. It's about a state, and it's about helping people to be able to live their life in the best part of the world, and have the services that they rely on, and be able to make a living and keep a roof over their head and be safe at home, and have faith that their government believes that integrity matters. That's what it's about.
So we've heard about the two candidates,
Yeah.
and Nell,
Yeah.
and you just spoke about Townsville.
Yep.
We've obviously got Dale down at the Bountiful Verticum.
Yeah, we like him.
What are your plans for your hometown?
Yeah, well, that's another one that that's another seat that we will be choosing somebody who's local. And make no mistake, when I see the hospital that I was born in, when I see young mums and my family members unable to have a baby there anymore, they need change too. And yeah, it's challenging, but of course we'll be putting forward somebody to represent that area. It's a large seat. Look, Hayden, we're going to have candidates in every seat, and whether or not they're seats that are extremely difficult to win, whether or not they are seats that are what's defined as marginal seats, every Queenslander matters, and I want every Queenslander to know that we're serious about bringing this kind of change that they deserve to see.
Obviously, youth crime is going to be a big issue for a lot of Townsville residents here because it's getting to a point where people are exasperated. Did you see that video of the father yesterday coming up from Willows?
Heartbreaking.
The attempted carjacking?
How do we get to a situation where a young father has to go through that experience where everything that is important to his life is in a baby capsule that can become part of a plaything in the youth crime crisis? That's what it's reached. Those images, you just imagine what that process is like for someone, and is it any wonder they speak out and call out the behaviour for what it is? It's a complete and utter degradation of any form of law and order, and you can trace it back 8 years to the broken Youth Justice Act, and I commit to you that it'll be first order of the day. Consequences for actions by rewriting the Youth Justice Act, removing detention as a last resort to unshackle the judiciary, and gold standard early intervention. They are the first three items on the agenda when it comes to youth crime, and it's deeply personal to me when I see people go through that. I've had family members go through that, and to see that through the eyes of a father who just wants to be able to protect his kids, that's when you know that the system has broken down to the point of no return. When you have young offenders who are prepared to ram a police car, hold a knife at somebody's throat at their door, and try to pinch a car with a kid in it, that's the complete and utter rock bottom that we've reached because of fewer police and weaker laws.
One of those new youth justice reforms was harsher punishments when they're posting on social media with these stolen cars. Obviously, just over the last few days that a lot of the kids here have been still posting. It's really
how's that going?
them. Does that just show that maybe either these kids don't know about those changes or they just don't care about those changes?
It shows that when governments make announcements and don't follow through, nothing changes. And everything that this government has done is always about an announcement, and it's never about the follow-through. It's always about how can they relieve pressure for themselves at that moment in time. It's never about how can they relieve pressure for Queensland families. And in the case of that plan, we've revealed those text messages that show how shambolically that was all done. There was no rigour put on it. It was just a grab bag of announcements before the Premier headed overseas. And to see how ineffective so many of their changes have been. Look at GPS monitoring. GPS monitoring was going to be the signature policy. You can count on one hand how many offenders have been fitted, because the way the Act was written allows them just a free pass to say, I don't want to wear one of those. I don't like the style of it, as though it's a brace, as though it's a fashion accessory. It's a broken system, and I'd encourage you to go back and have a look at those changes and then map what it has meant in the real light of day about what people have been charged with and what's the implications been. And it just shows you the government's all about announcement and never about delivery. Thank you, guys. We survived the green ants. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Rosie, we'll get you